G'day, guys. How are we? Welcome to Talking Boxing. Great to have you along. I hope you had a really good long week. Not long weekend, just a good weekend. I don't know where I got the long weekend from, but as I said, welcome to Talking Boxing. As always, plenty going on in the world of boxing at the moment. And tonight, probably one of those weeks where there's not a hell of a lot, if that makes sense, because Australian and world scene a little bit quiet in the last week, which is why I've got my top 5 fights in Australia and internationally that I'd like to run through tonight, as well as all the other stuff that's going on. As I said, there's really not a lot that did happen in the last week. The couple of weeks before that, of course, we had so much happening, and it's almost good to just get a week where it's it's taken the load off a little bit. So, as I said, a little bit to get through. I'm going to go through whatever little news we actually have available at the moment. A little bit going on with Tyson Fury, surprisingly, considering he's supposedly retired. The Devin Haney, Kambosos situation, weekend results. I think it was Chisora over Pulev. A couple other things going on. The Box Rec update as well we'll go through as well. So all the fights happening this weekend. But as I said, the big one tonight, or in this episode, is the 5 fights I would like to see both in Australia and internationally. And of course, on top of that, this is your show. So as it says there, we're talking boxing. So make sure any questions or comments or whatever you want to say, put it on the chat there, and let's talk about whatever topics you want to talk about. So as I said, I've got my stuff to go through, but this show doesn't work without your feedback. So whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, get a comment out there and or a question, and let's do what it says there. Let's talk some boxing. So let's get into a little bit of what's been happening in the world scene on the weekend, and really only one fight sort of note, and that was Derek Chisora in the UK with a 12-round decision over Kubrat Pulev. So he avenged his loss from a couple of years ago as a split decision loss. He won by split decision this time. I must admit, I wasn't really enthused. I didn't even watch the fight, so I can't give you any, great feedback or analysis, whatever it might be, because I couldn't be bothered getting up to watch it, and also haven't bothered to watch it on YouTube. Far more important things going on over the weekend, like watching the footy and watching other meaningful fights out there on YouTube. So I didn't see it. If you guys saw it, let me know. Give us your feedback, and we'll go from there. So as I said, put the comments in the section there. We're on YouTube and Facebook at the moment, and let's go. So actually, just before we get started, I understand you probably see the feed of this is always not overly great. So there's some light on the horizon. We are with Starlink, which is Elon Musk's great invention that he's brought out that's supposed to bring great internet to rural areas where I live. Hasn't exactly been a home run for me, but I've got a technician coming next week to hopefully get us running on 8 cylinders instead of about 2. So hopefully, if all goes well, we can not only have the feedback in the comment section, but we might even be able to get you guys on to chat, and you can ask your questions or comment on some things we're talking about live on air with me. And also hoping we can do our Thursday night show, which is the Boxing Deep Dive show that gets recorded on Thursday night and comes out Friday morning. Really hoping we can get that done live as well. So plenty going on. I'm trying to get up with the 21st century, not having much luck at the moment. So I hope the feed's coming through okay. And those listening on Spotify after the fact shouldn't have much dramas either. So as I said, the only bit of news over the weekend was Derek Chisora over Kubrat Pulev. Some other bits of feedback. What have we got there, mate? Yes, thank you, mate. Don't forget to hit the like button. I'm sort of not up with the spruiking of the the Instagram and the Facebook and YouTube. I know it's a bit of an art and you have to do it. I'm not really up for that. So, but yeah, hit the like button, subscribe, all those sorts of things, share, and let's get it out there, because the more people we have involved in this, the better. Look, over the week, we probably have sort of 200 to 250 people that actually watch it either live or after the fact or listen to it. So I really do appreciate the support, but it'd be great to actually get it up and get a few more of you out there. And as I said, come on, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we can have a chat live on air. Now, all right, so let's get into it. I did see something on the weekend that the Devin Haney George Kambosos fight is very close to being announced. It's for October, apparently. There is a little bit of a spanner in the works, so allegedly that Vasily Lomachenko has obviously thrown his hat in the ring. He wants to fight in October. Obviously, George has the first crack at it. However, apparently, Vasily Lomachenko is the #1 WBC contender. And apparently, if he elects to take that shot, which why wouldn't he? Then Devin Haney must fight him, and the title would go vacant. So whether he wants to give up one of his unified titles remains to be seen. I don't think he wants to fight George, and I don't really think he should have to. I understand there's contracts and all that sort of stuff. I totally get that. And George has obviously covered his bases to get the rematch. But I wouldn't be totally devastated. As much as we all want George, obviously, to get those titles back, I wouldn't be too disappointed if, in fact, Devin Haney, they can work something out where he does fight Lomachenko next and the winner gets George. I'd like to see George have a tune-up. Having said that, I totally understand that George wants the rematch and he's entitled to it, so good luck to him if he takes it. But geez, how good would it be to see Haney, Lomachenko, and then George fight the winner? I think that would be awesome. So that is a spanner in the works at the moment as we speak. That Lomachenko has said he wants to fight Devin Haney, which now puts the WBC in a position to make the call. Do they enforce it and make him fight Lomachenko or strip him? So I think it'd be pretty low, in my own opinion, pretty low for a sanctioning body to strip a unified champion because they won't fight the #1 challenger straight off the bat. He's got 4 belts. Obviously, it's extremely hard to keep all the sanctioning bodies happy. So I just think let's just maybe sit down with them all and work out a bit of a point plan procedure going forward where you can say, okay, we're going to fight this guy and then that guy and then that guy. So everyone gets the crack. I just don't like this whole, we're not fighting our guy, so we're going to strip you. It's poor form. So we'll see what happens with that one. Obviously, as I said, it'd be great to see George now get the rematch. But the spanner isn't officially in the works with Lomachenko. So what do you guys think? Would you like to see Haney fight George next? Or would you like to see him fight Vasily Lomachenko? So let us know in the comments there. And as Andy said before, don't forget to hit the like button. Let's get on to some other things before we get into my fights. And again, if you guys have got any fights you'd like to see, put them in the comments there. I'm going to not only give you the fights I'd like to see, but I'm also going to give you my predictions. So I'm happy to argue the point or discuss the point with you guys. So when that comes about, we will discuss that at length. The other one was, I did see that Adrian Broner is coming back in August. I'm not so sure. I don't even care these days. I was a real fan of Adrian Broner back in the day. I remember seeing him fight live against Daniel Ponce de Leon back in 2011. And looked really good. I thought this kid is definitely going to be the next Floyd Mayweather. And for some reason, actually, I think we all sort of know the reason, discipline and all the rest of it, has just his focus has not been on boxing. So, look, maybe good to have him back. I think he had a really golden opportunity when he fought Manny Pacquiao a few years back and just totally blew it, just didn't turn up the fight. So, I don't know about you guys, but I don't really care. The other news I saw was that, and I don't normally like to bring up the YouTubers and football players and that sort of stuff, but I wanted to make note of this. Jake Paul has signed to fight Hassim Raham Jr. on August 6th. Probably, hopefully, his first step towards actually fighting close to a legitimate fight. I'm not saying Raham is a world-class fighter, but he's had a few fights. He's solid, obviously a good pedigree. Tommy Fury would have been good as well, but it's actually good to see him at least attempt to fight a boxer for once. He hasn't fought a boxer since he started. And it's okay to say, well, I've beat these so-called MMA ex-fighters, but, it's like, these guys aren't boxers. They're not boxers. And if you're into the combat sports, you'll know that MMA fighters, boxing as far as importance, if up here is important, boxing is down here. They don't rate it, and it's always been a bit of a bugbear of mine that surely someone out there has got the brains of an MMA fighter to take boxing a bit more seriously, because with the footwork and the damage that hands can do, I don't know why they don't spend more time on it, but I'm yet to see a boxer. An MMA fighter with half decent boxing skills. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm yet to see it. Anyway, on to the boxing news. So, as I said, a little bit of respect for Jake Paul in that he's fighting a fighter. I won't say he's an elite fighter or a boxer, but at least he's actually engaged that. So, maybe this will be the first step in trying to get some legitimacy here. The other thing I did see, speaking of the Furies, was Tyson Fury has offered to fight Anthony Joshua for free. The stipulation being that the fight itself would be free to fans, the English fans. It would be free on TV as well. What do you guys think about that? I think it was a bit odd. I believe it when I see it. I think maybe worst case they could do is maybe donate the money to charity or whatever it might be. But you can imagine how many people or how you'd allocate the tickets. They get 95,000 people, whatever, to try and when they're free. So it'd be interesting to see how that works. But as I said, I would like to see it maybe done for charity, charge top dollar as always, and donate the hundreds of millions of dollars to a worthwhile cause, and that will be worth it. But yeah, it's an interesting one that he got up on stage. I haven't actually got the clip there. I'm not as well prepared as I normally am for this one, guys. I've had a bit on, so I haven't got any vision for you tonight. But I did see him that, he said he would fight Anthony Joshua for free if he beats Usyk. So we'll remain vigilant on that one. But the main reason for tonight's show, as I said, is the top five fights in Australia and overseas that I would like to see and who I think wins and why. And I want to hear your opinions as well, not only who you think will win the fights I'm about to suggest, but other fights that you guys might suggest as well. And again, anything else you guys want to talk about, put them in the comment section and let's talk some boxing. So the very first one, let's start with the Australian fights for starters. Now, there's a lot that I would actually like to see. There's a couple here. There's the five main ones, and there's an honourable mention, and there's some fights that maybe might happen down the track. Probably not within the next year or two, but maybe down the track. Number one, it's a fight that hasn't really been talked a lot about, not that I know about anyway, is Harry Garside versus Jacob NG. I think that would be a ripping fight. Yes, it might be a fraction early for Harry as far as his fights goes. He's only had 3 fights. Jacob's very, very experienced, obviously coming off that really disappointing disqualification loss to Billy Dibb. I actually think he was winning the fight, so it's a real shame. But what a fight that would be. Harry Garside versus Jacob NG. Now, as I said, I know Harry's only had the 3 fights, but he's had a lot of amateur experience, a hell of a lot. He's probably had, I'm not exactly sure how many he's had, but it's got to be in excess of 100, 150 fights, I would probably think, as an amateur. Of course, won the bronze medal at the Olympic Games. You can't get much more qualified than that. Jacob NG, I'm not sure, had a extensive amateur career, but he's obviously had more fights than Harry. But I just think Harry's lack of pro experience would more than make up for it with his amateur side. And the fact he's already fought 10 rounders already. What do you guys think? Harry Garside versus Jacob NG. What do we got there? Hang on, before we get my prediction there. I believe it when I see it. This is in regards to Tyson Fury. I believe it when I see it too. Tyson Fury didn't donate his purse to charity like he said the last time. Did he? No, that's a good point. Actually, I didn't think of that. When you look, no one expects him to. He's making probably $100 million or $50 to $100 million. You probably don't expect him to donate it. If you're not expecting to donate it, well, don't say it. So, but yeah, anyway, I agree with you, mate. Yes, and Garside versus NG would be a cracker. Really, really tough one, because I know it would be very easy to just say, look, Harry's got the skills, he's got the pedigree, he's going to get it done easy. But I think Jacob NG, while he's not a massive puncher, he's not overly fast, he's just one of those guys, he's just in the trenches, he hangs around, he's got a really good chin, he's very durable. I think he would give Harry Garside all he could handle. Having said that, I think that Harry would just have enough polish to get a 10-round decision. So even at this point, even if they fought next month, Harry Garside, I think, would get the nod over Jacob NG, but it would just be a ripper fight. I'm not sure how it would work. Harry Garside's obviously with No Limit. Jacob NG's with Ace Boxing. I'm not sure how they all get along. You got to be careful these days putting these matchups out there, because you're not sure how the promotional companies get along with each other, which is just, it's the same the world over. But I would love to see that fight. So what about you guys? Who do you guys think would win? I think Harry Garside in a points decision in that one over Jacob NG. The other one, this is one that probably got absolutely no hope of happening, and it is Liam Wilson against Dana Coolwell. I think it would be a ripping fight. Again, you've got Liam Wilson with No Limit, Dana Coolwell with Tasman Fighter / D Now. I'm not quite sure. There's the, what would you call it, the relationship between the two companies that it would work. There has been a little bit of friction lately. I did hear that the No Limit boys mightn't have been allowed into the Tasman Fighters show, which is a bit disappointing. I think it's a little bit petty. I don't know all the things that go on, don't get me wrong. But geez, it just puts a spanner in the works as far as these big fights going forward. So Liam Wilson, Dana Coolwell. Look, I think Liam at this stage is very much more advanced than Dana. Before I move on with this one, the other one I was going to throw in there was Sam Goodman, but there's zero chance of that happening very soon because both fighters with No Limit, they're both being built beautifully by the Rose brothers. So I think that's got zero hope of happening. This one, as unlikely as it is, I think has got more chance. But I think Liam Wilson, he's just got that little bit more class, a little bit more of everything: power, speed, movement. And I think he would beat Dana Coolwell. I know, I'm not sure whether they fought as amateurs. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think they did. But I think in that one, Liam would get the win. What do we got there? Boxing learner. Stevie Spark is looking good. Him and Paro would be nice to see. It would, mate. It would be awesome to see. A lot of water to go under the bridge before that one would happen, I would think. Stevie Spark, and just keep a look out in the sex. I've got him on my list here. He would be good. I think at the moment, Liam Paro, obviously he's got the Brock Jarvis fight coming up. He wants that world title shot after that, and I think he'll get it after he fights Brock if he wins, of course. I think he's looking more at the bigger picture at the moment. I think Stevie Spark's got a little bit more work to do before he'd be taken seriously to fight Liam Paro if he does win the world title. I mean, it's funny to say because Stevie, of course, he's well known to the Australian public now because he fought Tim Tszyu. Went up 2 or 3 divisions, so you got to take your hat off to Stevie. Hell of a fighter. But I'm not quite sure I can see that fight happening in the meantime. Within the next couple of years, I wouldn't think anyway. But Lean, Garside, and Wilson too. Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. That look both hell of a fights, I think. But I think Liam Wilson, maybe even by late round stoppage, I'm thinking over Dana Coolwell. So let me know what you guys think. Liam Wilson, Dana Coolwell, what an awesome fight it would be. Speaking of Stevie Spark, boxing learner there, Stevie Spark, I've got him against Dara Foley. Now, that to me seems the fight that makes all the more sense for both guys. I think they're both, I'm not sure whether they're both with No Limit, but they're certainly fighting under the banner. See, the way it works sometimes with these promotional companies, they don't actually sign the fighter as such. They sign to have them on the card. They might give them a 2 or 3 fight agreement to have them on the cards. And everyone wins in that matter where No Limit or DNL or whoever it might be aren't sort of stuck with the fighters and they've got to get behind them. They can just have them on their cards. The fighters sign up because they're getting quality fights, they're getting exposure, they're getting well paid. So it's a win-win for everyone. So what do you guys think of that one? Stevie Spark and Dara Foley. All I can say is what a war that would be. Before I give you my tip or my pick, I got Paro, and in my opinion, he should push for his title shot after Jarvis. I think he will, mate. And I think the reason why he's taken this fight, and you would have heard me comment a few times, that I've got no doubt that him and Alfie DiCarlo and the rest of the team have taken this under duress. They didn't want to fight Brock. Not that they didn't think they could beat him. They just didn't want to let Brock Jarvis just walk in and give him an attempt to take away everything that Liam's worked really hard to get. So I can understand that they'd be pissed. But on the other hand, I can also understand Eddie Hearn saying, boys, we need a big fight to go to Australia, and you boys are it. I'm sure he would have paid them well, so it will be fine. But I think after this, Liam said, yep, we'll take this fight, and after that, we're taking the WBO mandatory, because I know whether you guys have seen that Josh Taylor is going to stay at junior welterweight for the time being. He's actually going to hang on to the WBO, which is Liam's #1 mandatory, the WBO and IBF. So he's taking another fight first. So it means Liam, if he was going to hang around and fight Josh Taylor, might have to wait up to 12 months. And I don't blame him for not wanting to wait. That's why I think they've taken the Jarvis fight, because of that. So, yes, I agree 100%. Beat Brock if he can, and then he should get his world title shot after that. So, on to the fight itself. I think Stevie Spark beats Dara Foley. look, it's just my opinion. I've never been a massive rap for Dara. Nothing personal, of course. I'm sure he's a great guy by all accounts that I've seen him on TV and social media. Definitely a character, and we love the characters in the game. I love what he brings. I love how he yaps it up and he backs it up in the ring. I just don't think he's a world-class fighter. Correct me if I'm wrong. I just don't think he's at that level. And I think Stevie Spark is on his way to surpassing Dara. But this is a classic crossroads fight for both. And I really would like to see both of those lock horns. And I think it would be a really good fight. As I said, I think Stevie Spark wins the fight. I think he can win a clear-cut points decision or even stop Dara Foley late. Because I must admit, even with Stevie Spark, I wasn't a massive rap for him either, I must admit. I did see him fight a couple of times before he fought Tim Tszyu, and I'm discounting the Tim Tszyu fight, by the way. I'm not taking that into account at all. I did see him fight a couple of times. I just thought he was just an honest little bruiser, little fighter. You know, he'd rock up and let him go, and he'd knock a few out, and he'd just be one of those types of guys who would just remain at Aussie level and, you know, be a bit of a bull and everything else and clean up the local scene without actually going further. But after the Tim Tszyu fight, I must admit I've seen him fight Riverdaz, and I'm pretty sure there's another fight in there. He looked pretty impressive, and I really think the Tim Tszyu experience maybe will catapult him to the next level. I know that's a bit silly to say considering he got bowled over in 3 rounds, but look, he went up from 140 to 154. That's 14 pounds. It's nearly 7 kilos. It's a massive jump, and you know he had a go. So I'm discounting that, but I just think the exposure to being the main event, you know, being at the press conference, maybe he had to train a little bit different, just being exposed to that big fight atmosphere, I think has held him in good stead. And obviously he's with great trainer in Brendan Smith up there, excellent trainer, and he's in great hands. So I just think maybe from what I've seen, he's matured as a fighter, and I really think he could go to the next level, definitely regional level, and then maybe even you know, a little bit higher after that, but remains to be seen. So Stevie Spark is my tip to beat Dara Foley by decision or late round stoppage. The next one, let's have a look. Oh, this is a ripper. This probably should have been top of the pile. Isaac Hardman versus Andrei Mikhailovich. How good would this fight be? Now, if you're unfamiliar with Mikhailovich, I'm not sure how you could be because he's fought on the last few DNL Tasman Fighter events. I just think the actual lead up to the fight itself would be something to behold, I would think. I think the trash talking, I've got no doubt there'd be pushing and shoving and all sorts of barbs being thrown around everywhere. I think the build-up would be just as entertaining as the fight itself, but the fight, what a fight it would be. Now, we all know Isaac Hardman can bang, but can he take one on the chin from someone like Mikhailovich? Obviously, we know what happened with Michael Zarafa, and Michael's not known as a massive puncher. He can definitely punch, but he's not known as a big puncher. Mikhailovich is a killer. He gets you hurt and he gets you out of there. He's a little bit limited if you compare him to Zarafa. Zarafa's a couple of level above him, I think, as far as talent goes. But I think how was Isaac's chin react to Mikhailovich's punches? You know, as he learned a little bit more, he would need to improve his defense, definitely, because Mikhailovich would test that chin again. So he would need that on Mikhailovich's side. Can he take a punch? You know, can he take it? He can definitely dish it out, and they've matched him really well so far with his opposition while he's been with DNL and Tasman Fighters. So that's an interesting one. I'm actually going to go with Isaac Hardman, but again, it's a pick 'em fight. I think it's a really, really tough one to call. I think I'm going to lean towards Isaac only because I think the Zarafa fight has maybe matured him a little bit, in the way he might approach the event. I think in the past, it's all been about, hey, I'm Isaac Hardman, I'm going to knock you out. And I think the Zarafa fight really showed him that, as they say, there's levels to it. He might have thought he was at the level, but he was at this level. So I think judging by the last fight, even though it's hard to judge because, of course, he got Bo Hardis out of there in one round in what was a really bad knockout. I just think the way he approached it, there wasn't as much trash talking. There wasn't as much bravado. He got in there, and even though he got the job done in one round, he was cool, he was calm, he was collected, and he wasn't as open and free-flowing as what he normally has been in the past prior to Zarafa. So I'm just thinking the fact he would have matured a little bit by that and learnt a little bit by the Zarafa experience, I think that would be enough to get him through. I don't think there'd be a knockout. I know that's little bit ridiculous to say, considering they're both knockout records and they're both knockout punchers, of course. I just think both would give each other the necessary respect. And I actually think it might be a little bit more chess-like than what people might expect. Because when you got two punches in there, it could probably go two ways, I suppose. But I just think neither one of them will go out there to knock the other one out because they respect each other a little bit too much. I'm thinking Hardman on points. Well, yes, mate. It might be a case of he who lands first. Well, it could be. Look, who knows? I might be totally mistaken. They might go out there and throw bombs, and one of them gets knocked out in 1 or 2 rounds. It might be Hagler Hearns all over again, but I don't know. I just think maybe Mikhailovich might do that, but I just got the impression by the body language of Isaac in that last fight that he's learned from that fight, and you probably won't see that reckless fighting from him going forward. But we'll see. Anyway, what do we got there? So that's that one for me. I'll just get rid of that. All right, so let's get on to the next one. This is the last one again, and I just said the last one was probably the biggest. This one's probably the biggest of all of them. And surprise, surprise, it is an all-female fight. Shannon O'Connell versus Ebanie Bridges. Will it happen? That's probably the main question we have to ask. Will it happen? By what I've looked at, maybe it won't. Maybe it won't happen. I can't see why it wouldn't happen. Shotgun wants the fight more than anything. I just get the impression, and again, I haven't got the video. I was too slow to record it. It was on Ebanie's Instagram stories, I think. It was the podcast she did last week. And she... I almost picked up the phone and rang Shannon, to be honest, just to get her opinion, but I could probably guess she was absolutely fuming. I don't know if you guys saw it. I'm going to try and track the footage down. I couldn't get it for this episode, but she pretty much called Shannon to see you next Tuesday, and which was totally. It's on YouTube, Ross. Thanks, mate. I'll get it for the Thursday night show that we shown Friday morning. But again, if you didn't see it. Shannon, of course, after last fight said, Ebanie, what are you waiting for? I'm going to punch holes in you. Let's go. She's number one challenger, by the way. That's one thing we can't get out, or we can't forget. She is the number one challenger, so she's got the chance. I think it's by March, worst case. Ebanie's got on there and said Shannon's fought nobody. She's fighting all these novices. And look, probably a couple of the fights have been, but not by Shannon's choice, I can tell you. And Taylor Robinson, I think, will probably prove a lot of people wrong as far as her experience that goes. She'll end up, I think, fighting for a world title and probably winning a world title. I think she's got all the tools. Taylor, the last fight, of course, Shannon was coming off the shoulder. I don't think you can take too much away from Shannon for that fight, but she did make a point. Her last few fights been against inexperienced fighters, and she doesn't want to, or she doesn't think Shannon deserves the fight. And as I said she's a see you next Tuesday, and it was pretty spiteful. And what do you guys think? I look, it's a fight that just has to happen, surely. It has to happen. But I'll be honest with you, this has got nothing to do with the fact that I know Shannon really well and I've had a lot to do with her career. I really just don't think Ebanie wants the fight. That's just my honest opinion. Now, prove me wrong. If Ebanie wants to come on here and let me know it's otherwise, that's fine. But I just don't think she wants the fight. What do you guys think? Well, I've got a comment here. Shotgun needs to force Mando via sanctioning body. And look, that will happen. Shannon's number one challenger. Ebanie will have to fight her by March, but I'm telling you, my honest opinion is Ebanie will give up the title. She said on the podcast the other day that she wanted to unify the title. She's obviously going to have to fight Shannon or maybe one of the other mandatories as well in there somewhere. They just can't let you keep unifying the title. But I think Shannon, she will force it. She'll probably have another 1 or 2 fights before March next year, or at least one, I would think, just to keep busy. And stay tuned on that, because I've got a feeling I might be speaking out of school here about August, I think, is what the late August, maybe they're looking at Shannon getting back in the ring, but we'll see. So she's active. She's ready to go. And this is, again, I'm trying not to be disrespectful to Ebanie, but I think I said last week, how do you lie in bed and look at the ceiling and go to sleep each night knowing that you haven't proven to be the best in Australia, let alone the world? And look, full credit to her. She won the world title. I'm not quite sure the world title or world championship fought was, let's say, at Canelo Alvarez levels, but she was still a world champion. She took the belt, so good luck to her. But surely she would be thinking, I've got to fight Shannon O'Connell. It's the only way I'm going to get that real respect back home. And I know she probably says she doesn't care about what Aussies think, but she would. You would have to. You're always conscious about what people in your homeland are saying, and it's probably proven, or my point's proven, the fact that she always asks up about it and everything else when it's brought up from Australian media. So what do you guys think? I just don't know how she can really rest easy knowing that Shannon is still out there. Ross, you've got the link. I'd love to see it, mate. So let us know what it is. Send it to me. If Ebony gives up the title, I would be inclined to think that's a duck. Well, that's the only way you could see it, mate. How, if you've worked that hard to be a world champion, how can you just give it up without even fighting the number one challenger? Now, if she fights Shannon and gets beat, well, I don't think it deters or detracts from her at all. I mean, she goes again. She's obviously got Eddie behind her. She's a former world champion. She's always going to get fights. There's plenty of other titles out there she could fight for. But yeah, if you give up a title rather than fight a number one challenger, that is a duck. So, that's just my opinion. But again, I'm taking my team shotgun hat off here, and I'm just saying, look, there's two fighters, Ebony Bridges versus Shannon O'Connell. I never thought this would ever happen, but this is the biggest fight, I think, in Australian boxing at the moment. Two females. I think it's getting more and more traction on social media. My personal opinion is I think Shannon wins the fight, but hey, if Ebony takes fight, she could win. She's improved a lot. She did look pretty good in the last fight. The only concern I have with Ebony is that she's not a big puncher and she does gas. She gasses in each fight that she has, and she likes to fight just at her own pace so she can take a rest and then go again. Shannon O'Connell will not let you have 1 second to spare. She'll be on you right from the word go. I'm going to see. I'm not sure I can actually put that up. Ross, you've just sent it to me. I'll see. I'm not quite sure if I can maybe, hang on. All right, guys. I'm going to try and get it. Deep dive. Where are we? Hang on, Nick. Mate, I'm going to get on. I'm on another channel. I'm on my Facebook channel this time. Last week, all the questions came through on the box on the other channel. So let me get on to the deep dive channel and let's. So I'm going to try and get the Ebony Bridges thing up. But as I said, what do you guys think? What do you guys think? Should she be forced to fight? Well, should she fight Shannon regardless? All right, here we go. I'm going to get on the deep dive page. All right. Oh, thanks, mate. So you've just got a couple of comments there. Beautiful. Really appreciate you actually watching, mate. Because if you're not watching Noonan Boy Promotions on Instagram and Facebook, then you're really missing out because he's got such a reach, obviously, with Fight Hype. So doing a great job there, mate. So keep it up. I steal your videos often. So keep them coming. All right. So I'm not sure how I'm going to get the thing up there. Let's see if I can. Anyway, let's keep chatting. I'm not sure I can actually bring it up, but I'll definitely have it for the Thursday night show. Friday morning show. So keep a look out for that one. But yes, it is a duck. As I said, my prediction, I think Shannon wins at this stage quite comfortably. I think she's harder, she's fitter, she punches harder, and I just think her experience levels, I just don't think Ebony can go with her. So prove me wrong, Ebony. Let's get in the ring and let's make it happen. Surely, I don't know again what you guys think, but surely if you're an Aussie fighter, whether you're based here or overseas, you want to prove yourself to your countrymen or women. This is a way to do it. Don't get much bigger. And I know it's all about money, but surely if Eddie Hearn comes to Australia in September, they were talking about for the next show, surely Ebony versus Shotgun will be worth some big bucks here in Australia. They could generate the money, and it's not an issue. So the only issue, again, is whether Ebony actually takes the fight. So let's go, Ebony. Let's start a petition. What else we got here? It's one thing to try and hold together 4 belts, but it's another to give away that 1 meal ticket. Yeah, that's obviously what I was talking about with Haney before. Look, I think these days, if I was in the position that these guys are and I was winning a unified title, I would probably win it and then just look at maybe keeping 2 belts and say, look, let's give up the other ones and let's, it's very, very hard. I know we want to keep them and keep defending them, but it just gets impossible. And you're a slave to the sanctioning bodies just 24/7. You don't get it. It's really hard to have a voluntary in there. If you're always fighting mandatories to keep them happy, you always got opponents lined up. It's very, very tough, I would think. So that would be my advice. Win the unified title. You're always going to be a unified world champion. give a couple of them up, concentrate on a couple of them, and then away you go, or move up or down or whatever you've got there. Ross, good point here, mate. Ebony thinks she beat Shotgun and X. Okay, now I didn't actually mention the Shanika Johnson scenario as well. Now, I think to get on there and say that Shanika looked shocking in her last fight and she would pretty much school her and all the rest of it. It's one thing I know there's a bit of spite in the Shannon O'Connell situation. I understand that. And there's going to be a bit of trash talk and up yours. And the other one's going to say, no, up yours. But the Shanika Johnson, that one actually made me laugh when she said that Shanika Johnson didn't deserve the chance. I think Shanika Johnson would absolutely box rings around Ebony Bridges. I think it would be an absolute total mismatch. It would probably be on a par with the Shotgun one, except that she would be outboxed. I think Shannon would stand there and really, do some damage with her hands by going after her. I think Neeks Johnson would literally box her ears off. She would not lay a glove on Shanika, and I think Shanika would win very, very comfortably. So what do you guys think about that one? I think that would be even as one-sided as the Shotgun fight. Be interesting to see if Shotgun and Neeks fight again. I think they probably should. They did fight, obviously, start of last year on the Zarafa Mundine card. Shannon got the split points decision over that one. That was a close fight. Personally think Shannon won the fight, but it was close enough to go again. And Shanika's obviously got that world title now, so why not get it on? So okay, so yes, good point. I'm just going to get the link for Eddie. What have we got there, mate? Believe it or not, our little one, Carlos, has been up since 5 a.m. showered already for school. Sending my love to you too, Eddie. He's what do we got there? He's over in the States looking on. My good friend Eddie Montalvo. So shout out to him. All right. So we've got the link. Has he put the link? Did you put the link in this comment section there, Ross, or did you just send it to me? Let me have a look. I'm going to put the link in the comment section. Hopefully you can see it. Where are we? Ross. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to go back here and see if I can find. I think you put it in mine there, Ross. I will go back and let's see. So anyway, we'll keep chatting about the fights. As I said, I think Shannon wins quite easily, and I think that Shanika wins quite easily over Ebony Bridges. On to the top 5 fights. I just want to actually, what do we got there? Oh, yeah, the link for it here. Sorry, guys. I know these are all watching now. I'm going to copy the link. Let's get it up there. All right. So where are we? Let's put it in here.
All right, everybody. We're going to be joined by the reigning IBF Bantamweight champion, Ebony.
All right. Well, that was the audio of it. So, look, I've put it in the comment section there. So, look it up. It is, you can see it on your screen there, but click on it in the comments there and you'll be able to see it for yourself. It's quite entertaining. I've only seen clips. Thanks, Ross, for pointing that out, mate. I have only seen some clips of it as well, but I'm going to have a lot more for the Thursday night show. So now I want to give an honorary mention as far as the 5 Australian fights. I want to give this one, Floyd Masson versus Jason Waitley. I would really like to see that fight as well. I think Floyd Masson actually gets the job done in that one. I know they're talking about Jason Waitley fighting Jai Patara at some stage. I think it's way too early. And actually, it's probably not too early. I don't think it matters how often they fight. Jai Patara beats Jason Waitley 7 days out of 7, 24 hours in every day. He just does. And again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Jason. He's doing some really good things. He's ranked 10 in the world with the IBF. I have seen him fight in the amateurs a couple of times. I know it's the amateurs and this is pros, but Jai, I think, is just a better fighter. And I think he absolutely wins every round against Jason. If they fight 10 times, he beats him 10 times. It's just the way I think it is. I think Jason, even though there's probably some good money at stake for them in Australia, I would probably advise Jason to go down another route if he wants to win the world title because he's not beating Jai Opetaia. It's as simple as that. So that one's a quite easy one. But this fight, I'd actually like to see maybe these two fight. Maybe the winner get the opportunity at Jai. If that's what they want for an all Aussie world title fight. I think Floyd Masson gets a job over Jason Waitley. I think he's, as I said, he's too slick, moves really well. He can also punch. Jason's got the power, but he's just a little bit limited in his movement. He's not the most graceful sort of guy. As I said, he can definitely punch, but I haven't seen him in with a really well-credentialed opponent yet. So it's okay to be knocking out the Fijians and Oganov, whatever, is the Russian guy that he's fought a couple of times. It's okay to be knocking those guys out. I want to see him fight someone like a Floyd Masson. Now, the odds are it's not going to happen because one's with DNL, one's with Ace Boxing. So I know there's a little bit of friction there, but again, that is one I would like to see. 3 fights that could happen down the track. We might be talking about these in 12 months' time or even 2 years' time. Who knows? So these might be on our list then. Justice Huni, Willis Meehan. What a fight that would be. So it's not going to happen at the moment. There's too much invested in Justice, I think, at the moment. Willis Meehan is a beast. He's very, very dangerous, and he can do some damage. So there's no way they're going to put him in with Justice Huni at the moment, not while Justice is about to get ranked with some of the organisations. So that ain't going to happen. But in 12 months' time, 2 years' time, the only probably issue I've got with Willis Meehan is that he hasn't got a major promotional firm behind him. I think he's with Brian Amatruda. I think he's based in Sydney or Sydney or Queensland. I'm not sure, but he fights in Melbourne under Brian Amatruda. And that's good. Brian will give him fights, but I would like to. Brian's pretty limited in how far he can probably take someone like a Willis Meehan. So I would like him to see him with a No Limit or even an Ace Boxing or, of course, DNL. I think that would be probably better for him. Because I just don't think the money and the investment and all that's there for Willis Meehan at the moment. So if he does sign with one of those guys, I think this fight could definitely happen. Willis will get his way through the rankings. But he's obviously the son of Kali Meehan, too. Mean Hands, his name was. So I think that'd be a ripper fight, maybe in a year or two's time. But what a fight that would be. Talk about bombs being thrown. Oof, that would be a ripper. The other one I'd like to see, and who knows, it could happen sooner rather than later, is Nikita Tszyu, Ben Mahoney, or Marnie, or Mahoney, however you want to pronounce it. Really a big fan of both of these guys. Of course, Nikita Tszyu, he's only had the 2 fights, so let's give him a little bit of a break at the moment. He's obviously fighting next week against Ben Horn. Probably should make short work of Ben, I would think. Ben's a really honest guy, but he's not his brother Jeff. So I think this is going to be a really easy fight for Nikita. Who knows? Ben's a tough, durable guy. He'll hang in there, but Nikita, he's a beast. He lets him go. He's got that southpaw stance. He's got that real mean streak about him, and I think he's got an even meaner streak than his brother. I think Tim is more the break you down and put you away later type of fight, and Nikita wants to get you out of there in a round or two. So I'm not expecting that fight to go too long. But what do you guys think? Ben Mahoney, or Martin? I'm going to call him Mahoney. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's got some ability as well. The other one I wouldn't mind seeing Nikita fight at some stage is Victor Nagby. Now, Victor's with the Dragonfire stable. He's from Geelong. I think he actually beat Sam Solomon, but he's only had a handful of fights. I think him and Nikita, I'm not sure that's the fight they want very soon because Victor is very, very capable. Nikita's obviously, he needs to get those rounds under the belt. So I'd like to see that one. The other one with Nikita is Koen Mazudia. I would like to see that fight as well. I think that would be a ripper. But all takes time. These are all fights in a year or two's time, I think. So we'll see what happens there. Pommy in Oz, welcome to the show, mate. I know you've probably got a bit on a Monday night. You're probably on Blue Abroad with the guys on there. So welcome aboard, mate. So sorry, gents and ladies, I'm late. Thoughts on Chisora? Very good fight with Pulev. We were just discussing this a little bit earlier, mate. Very good fight with Pulev, a top 10 himself, Wilder and White in his scopes. Thought on big old Del Boy. Now, Chisora, I think... I just said before, to be honest with you, Pommy, I didn't actually watch the fight live. I couldn't be bothered, to be honest. But has he got a big fight left in him? He fought Pulev and he's got the win. It wasn't, from what I've gathered, it wasn't an overly exciting fight. If he's going to go on, I think he's got to fight Deontay Wilder. I think the Dillian White thing's been done. I think the Fury's thing's been done. I just don't think he's at the level anymore. I think he's got to fight a Deontay Wilder, and that would be a ripper fight. It would be a really good fight. You never know what to expect with Chisora. I think he had the mask of what's his name, Boris Johnson on the weekend, which was funny. Look, he always brings excitement to the table. He's look, they're good for an event, but I think as far as credibility in these big fights go, I think his time's over. He's had his crack at it. I think maybe just fight the level below, unless a Deontay Wilder wants to come back and have a crack. So we'll see what happens there. All right, what have we got here? Nikita got them heavy hands. No shit, he's got those heavy hands. And I think Ben Horn's going to find out the hard way next week. I think you got another one there, mate. Huni and Meehan. Yeah, it would be awesome. So if you're out there and you're not familiar with Willis Meehan, look, he's probably flying under the radar so far. Make sure I'm not sure he's on YouTube. Check him out. He's, as I said, he's the youngest son of Carly Meehan. He can fight. He's a big boy. He can punch. He's got all the tools. Very, very risky fight for Justis Huni, but a fight I can see happening down the track. Pommy, great to have you here anyway, mate. I think you've been here for a couple of weeks. Good to get some more input. Good old fight outside Rebs, to be honest, mate. Was just two blokes smashing the hell out of each other. Can you just clarify that a bit there, mate? What was that one? What are you referring to there? I'd be interested to hear what you've got to say there. Good old fight outside Rebs, to be honest. All right, let us know what that one is referring to. Derek was honest. His time was limited, but he still wants to give fans big fight. Look, and there's always going to be room for these guys. Look, we need those guys in boxing. They're almost like the gatekeepers, because you've got all these young guys coming up. They want the tough, durable journeymen who've got the name, but maybe aren't necessarily in position to beat them. You need those types of guys. They're going to give them the rounds. And we need them in boxing. So that's where I'll probably see Derek at the moment. I just think that's about where he got the win on the weekend, but from what I've seen, the limited highlights I've seen, I just don't think that Derek's really got much left in him, to be honest. Chisora versus Pulev was like a fight. Oh, okay. Sorry, mate. Now I'll get you. 2 weeks having a throw of hands over spilt beer. Good to see. I think the fight was on at about 4 a.m., wasn't it, here in Australia? There's no way I was going to get up and watch that one. I think it was on Fox Sports, I think they said. So, no, good to see no skills are trying to hurt each other. Look, I just think both guys are just on the downward slope now. They're always going to be those opponents that people are going to fight on the way up, just to get, as I said, get the rounds in, get a bit of cred, I suppose, bit of boxing cred. That's probably about all I can see. Look, both of these guys have had multiple chances at big fights. They've shown that they're around the mark, but not good enough to really, be in the upper echelon. So I just think, I think they're more, as I said, more like gatekeepers at the moment. So the other one that I would like to see is, again, it's an all-female fight. This is Sky Nicholson, Beck Hawker. What a fight this one would be. Beck Hawker's fighting for a world title in September. I'm not quite sure what title that it is. So if anyone's out there that can tell me, that would be great. Sugar Ray Turner is in the house. How do you post comments on the live stream? Just get on the put them in on Facebook or YouTube, mate. Just in the comment section there, and they'll come up on the live feed here. So, just put them on YouTube or Facebook that you're on there. Go to probably my personal page is probably the best one, or the deep dive one as well. They're live on all of them at the moment. So I'll see if I've got any questions coming through. No, none on that one. Let's check the deep dive page, and none there either. So so keep the questions coming, guys. If you guys have got fights you think we would like to see, let's go, bring them up and let's discuss. So far for Pommy and a few of the others have turned up maybe late. The 5 Aussie fights I wanted to see were Harry Garside, Jacob NG. I picked Harry Garside to win on points. The other one was Liam Wilson, Dana Coolwell. I picked Liam by late round stoppage. Stevie Spark, Dara Foley. I picked Stevie Spark by late round stoppage or unanimous decision. Isaac Hardman, Andrei Mikhailovich. I went for Isaac Hardman on points. And Shannon O'Connell, Ebony Bridges. I went for Shannon O'Connell by stoppage in that one. And the honorary mention was Floyd Masson, I think, gets the win over Jason Waitley on points. I don't see Derek getting Wilder, though, to be honest. No, probably not, mate. Look, I did see that Deontay Wilder's on the comeback march, so we'll see what happens there. Look, he would have been very, very mentally scarred by the fights with Fury. Not that he was beat up as such. I know he was stopped in both both of the fights, but he didn't take a hell of a lot of punishment. He was just probably more pride was hurt more than anything. And Deontay Wilder, he's one of those fighters that relies purely on his pride and his ego and self-confidence. So I would have taken a hit. I don't think it'd be an overly exciting fight. I think Wilder knocks him out, to be honest. It'd be tough, Derek Chisora, but I think when you stand in front of Wilder, it's only a matter of time before you get hit. On the Sky Nicholson and Beck Hawker fight, Sky coming along great. Eddie giving her good solid fights. Yeah, and she has. She's had some really good fights. She hasn't had any real pushovers. She's won all the fights quite convincingly, but she hasn't been handed any obscure fighters on a platter. You know, she's had to earn the wins, and she's got some good rounds out of it. I'm really impressed with Sky. I was a little bit worried that she didn't have the style. She's obviously a very accomplished amateur. I wasn't quite sure whether she'd be able to bring that over to the pros, but she's looked good so far. And I got no doubt she will win a world title. She will be another Aussie female to win a world title. However, Beck Hawker is another proposition. If she fights Beck Hawker, that is a fight I would be almost tempted to go for Beck. I know I've just pumped Sky up there, but Beck Hawker has the ability to beat Sky because she'll be on her chest. She'll give her no room. She's not the most graceful fighter, Beck Hawker, but she's tough, she's rugged, she's hard, she's fit, and she can punch as well. So I think she would give Sky some troubles, but over 10 rounds, I think Sky gets the job done on points in that one. What have we got here, mate? Vasily Lomachenko, Gervonta Davis. Would love to see this. Yes, well, actually, we're about to get on to that with my international fights in a sec, mate. So it's not actually on there, but both fighters feature, if that makes sense. Not against each other. That would be a ripper fight, though, mate. I think it would be awesome. Lomachenko and Davis. And I'm very fortunate. I'm not sure if I mentioned this, Pommy. I'm very fortunate to have seen Vasily Lomachenko up close. And he's even more impressive in person than what you see on the screen. We went to Robert Garcia's gym in the States about 6 or 7 years ago with the Maloney twins. We're over there for training camp. Both Maloney sparred with Vasily Lomachenko. His sparring partner, I think, come down sick. So they let the boys get in there and do some rounds. And, geez, it was great sparring. Lomachenko, there's no coincidence that they call him the Matrix because he was just a magician in there. And he just dictates every second of every round at his own pace. And, I mean, the boys were, especially, I think Jason did the most rounds. Jason only had 4 or 5 fights at the time. So, but Vasily Lomachenko, holy shit, he was an absolute magician in there. It's all right, mate. Jump the gun. It's all good. Yeah, he is smooth as silk, like garlic butter. The way he is, mate. He, as I said, seen him up close. To see him, he almost, what's the best way to describe it? He almost hypnotizes opponents. He's in there. I think when Jason sparred him, he might have had 2 other opponents as well. It was his last spar before he fought on the Pacquiao Mayweather undercard. So he was in really good form. And there was 3 opponents, and each one of them, the way he moved his hands, as I said, it was almost like he hypnotized the opponent he was in. Every second of every round was purely dictated by him. If he wanted to fight, he would fight. If he wanted to box, he would box. No matter what the opponents did, it didn't matter. He was in charge. Now, it might be a little bit different these days because Jason's had an extra 25 fights since then, and different weights, of course. But he is definitely smooth, mate. No doubt about that. All right, so let's get into the 5 international fights. The first one's probably the obvious one. Everyone's been waiting for. It's Errol Spence, Terence Crawford. I must admit, I'm not as enthused as a lot of other people are in this one. Look, it'll be a great fight. I'm not quite sure it'll be the Leonard Hearns or Donald Curry, Milton Macquarie, or whatever it might be, or Mayweather, Pacquiao, welterweight fights we've had in the past. I think Crawford wins, but I don't think it's going to be a very exciting fight. And if everyone expects them to get in there and go to war, you've got to remember both of these guys are very, very good technicians. Crawford's probably the bigger puncher, but going up to welterweight, he's obviously come from lightweight to junior welterweight up to welterweight. I just think that, I'm not quite sure it's going to be an overly exciting fight. Having said that, I want to see the fight, and this is, of course, what the segment's about. But again, I just don't think it's going to be overly exciting. But I do tip Terence Crawford to win on points for what it's worth. What do you guys think? Put them in the comments section there. I'm just checking my what do you call it? My comment section there on Facebook, because sometimes they don't come through. Yep, all good. All right, the next one is where is it? Jamal Charlo. So not Jamal Charlo, the middleweight version, up against Jaime Munguia. I think that'll be a really, really good fight. I think both guys bring a lot to the table. What do we got there? Oh, thanks, Sugar Ray. Your great show. Appreciate that, mate. I'll see if I can actually see it on the screen. I probably can't on this one, but it'll be on my comment section. So, no, appreciate it, mate, and love to have your input. If you don't know, that's Sugar Ray Turner. If they're worth knowing in boxing, he knows them. So, and he's a bit of a boxing encyclopedia as well. So, Sugar Ray, give us your feedback there, mate. We need to have guys like you on here. So, Pommy, let's see what you got to say about anyone else thinks Terence Crawford is like the most grossly overrated fight. Oh, geez, okay, well, that goes against what I just said. But like boring as a weekend at your mother-in-law's. Yeah, look, he mightn't be. I'm not sure whether he's overrated, because it's hard to say with Terence Crawford because he just hasn't fought the fighters. I mean, I know he's had the Sean Porters and obviously Jeff Horn, and he's had a few of these guys, but maybe this is the fight where we see whether he's overrated or not. As I said, I think he beats Spence, because I don't think Spence has been overly challenged either. I know that it's just a hard one. It's a really tough one. As I said, I'm not as enthused about this fight as a lot of other people are, but I want to see it. But we'll see. All right. But I'm not sure he's overrated, mate, but I would like to see a bit more before one thing I will say, Pommy, is he's not, in my opinion, the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world. That's just my opinion. I know he's almost got it by default because of what happened to Canelo. I just think guys like Inoue and Usyk, I would have above him. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? But I think the whole Crawford hype, as far as number one in the world, that's what I think is overrated. He's not the number one fighter. Anyway, really want to see Bud versus Spence, but I'll believe it when I see it. Well, I did read, mate, that Errol Spence commented that they're as close as they've ever been, and they're looking at a September-October fight. Spence is pretty confident from what I'm reading there. Nothing really coming from Crawford, but Spence says if it doesn't happen now, it's never going to happen. That's how close they are. So that it remains to be seen. But as I said, for what it's worth, I think Bud gets the win. Pommy again. Agree with you. Want to see him fight. They just build him up like he's Mayweather, Pacquiao, but just not want to see him as dude I pay to watch. Yeah, mate, you're where I am. I don't think he's anywhere near the class of the Mayweather, Pacquiao, what they were, and who knows? We'll see what he's made of when he fights Spence. But I think the type of opponent they've put him in with so far has made him look good. And I know that's probably a cliche because you can only look as good as the people they put you in with. I just think he's been matched pretty well. He's missed out on a few of the big fights over the journey. It's not all his fault because he's not the most marketable guy. I know he had the dispute top rank, and that's why they parted ways. So he hasn't had the real opportunities to really show what he's got. But yeah, I don't know. I just think there's better pound for pound fighters out there than him. So remains to be seen. All right, let's get on to the next one. Hang on, what do we got here? I took Bud extra serious after he outschooled and beat up our Jeff Horn. Yeah, look, I think that was always going to happen, to be honest, mate. I think he was a couple levels above Jeff. I know Jeff was coming off the Pacquiao fight and the Corcoran fight, but I just think that, look, Jeff was just absolutely tailor-made for Bud, and it was almost leading the lambs to the slaughter, I think, in that one. Jeff did a hell of a job, don't get me wrong. The last 9 rounds against Crawford, I think, was a great effort. But I think, yeah, he made Bud look pretty good. Pommy, mental. He's number one. Number one. Usyk, miles in front. The jump from cruiser heavyweight, in my opinion, is the hardest for a boxer to do. Yeah, it's a massive jump. It's not like in the other divisions where you're going up sort of 4, 5, 6 pounds. You're going up, sometimes 10 or 20 kilos. So, Hay broke people at cruiserweight, but heavyweight looked weak and slow. Yeah, he did, mate. He just wasn't the same fighter. But on the other hand, you get someone like obviously an Usyk, a Holyfield. I mean, it was made for Holyfield. He was great at that weight. what do we got here? So, Pommy, you agree with? Agree with you. He took Horn to school, but he's Horn the level of the best. No, he's not, mate. And I love Jeff. I've full respect for what he did against Manny, but he's not at that level. I do not think he is. I feel like he's just cherry picked his fights. I wouldn't. Are we talking about Horn here or Crawford? I agree. He took Horn to school. Not think he is. I feel like he's cherry picked his fights. Never seems to take the best. I'm assuming you're talking about Crawford. I think he wants to fight the best, but he's promoters like Bob Arum. There's just never really been that big fight there for him. Bob's had a lot of other big fights going on. He's almost just been the forgotten guy, and it is a shame because I think he's 35 years old now, so it's almost like he's missed that real 5-year window that the Leonard and Hearns and Pacquiao and Mayweather and all these guys got. He just seems to have missed that. All right, so but we'll soon see, mate. If he gets his fight, this will be his Leonard Hearns, I would probably think, fighting Crawford. So we will see. And it was Crawford you were talking about there. So what do you guys think? I reckon Crawford over Spence. Sorry, on the Charlo and Munguia. That's what we're talking about. If you're not familiar with Jaime Munguia, check him out. I think he was a junior middleweight world champion. He's now at middleweight. You remember him? I think he had the controversial decision over Dennis Hogan. He's a lot better fighter than that, I think. So that would be a really good fight. I think Charlo. I think he gets the win over Munguia. However, that would be a really, really good fight. Another comment there. Went back and watched Bud fights after Horn, and since he got exceptional skills, very talented. Yeah, look, I'm not saying he's not, mate, but very hard especially to put someone at number one in the pound for pound rankings when he hasn't. You've got to have a big win on your record to be, in my opinion. Canelo's had a lot over the years. I just don't think Bud's. Who knows? He might be the best fighter in the world, but we just don't know because he just hasn't had that opposition. All the other fighters up there have had those big wins in their career, and I just don't think Bud's had that yet. If he beats Spence, then hey, make the argument. No problem whatsoever. Put him at number one besides probably Usyk. If he beats Joshua, if he's expected to. So until he does that, for me the jury's out. What do we got? What do we got there, mate? I just want to. I think I'll check the comments in the other on the other one because we've got a few comments coming through, and sometimes I've just got to check my other Facebook page because sometimes they don't come through. I'll send them to me. Can you send them, please? All right, let's get on to the next one. I'll read some more comments out as they come, guys. I'm just sort of looking through the Facebook page. Skinny, mismatch. Which one are you referring to, mate? Just let me know what fight you're referring to, mate, whether that's Charlo or Munguia. I'm assuming that's the one. So you obviously think Charlo gets the job done pretty easy there. Crawford. Crawford and Spence. Just apologies for this, guys. For some reason, they come up sometimes on one and not the other. Crawford should outbox him. Yep, I went for Crawford as well, mate. So on points. But if it's a mismatch referring to as Charlo Munguia, I think it's a mismatch. But I think that Charlo gets the job done. Jaime, what do we got here? Jaime pulled out of Jamel fight, then calls him out after beats lower tier fighters. Should have fought for middleweight belt versus Andre 2. Did he pull out of the Charlo fight? I know there was talk about them fighting. Was it actually scheduled and he pulled out? I'm not sure he did, mate. So let me know, mate. I might have missed that one. But either way, I think Jamel gets the job done, but I don't think it would be an easy one, that one. Big fan of Charlo, says Pommy, classy and exciting. Yeah, well, let's hope his brother's not as good as we think he is either when he fights Tim, although I've heard that there's some issues with that one. So we'll just see what happens with that, with other mandatory guys putting the 2 cents in with the Tim versus Jamel Charlo. But both boys, they're just hard, mate. They're just big, strong, super welterweights and middleweights. They're just big guys and they can punch. They can do it all. So, very classy, mate. Now, let's get on to the next one. 2 lightweight fights. We're going to go over, Pommy, these ones are for you, mate, because you mentioned both before. The first one we're going to get to is Devin Haney versus Vasily Lomachenko. This is the one that obviously looks like it could happen in the next might happen instead of the George fight. I think George will hold his ground and he'll get the fight. However, Lomachenko's put his hand up to say he wants the next fight, and as a WBC #1 challenger, he should get it. So it remains to be seen what happens there. But who do you guys think wins, Devin Haney or Lomachenko? I think Lomachenko wins that fight by styles. I don't think it'd be one-sided. I think that would be a tough fight. Haney, he showed against George. He's got all the tools, and I think he would give Lomachenko a very, very good fight. I just think Lomachenko is a little bit more polished and will get the win. What do you guys think? I think Loma. Let's get another comment there. PBC put up the dollars, was on, then GBP, Golden Boy, pulled Jaime out because wanted his own picture. Okay, I wasn't aware of that, mate. So thanks for that. So PBC put up the money, was on Golden Boys, and then Jaime out because he wanted the zone in the picture. I think now you mentioned that might ring a bell. There's been that much of that shit going on lately. It's hard to keep track, but yeah, I do remember that now. But yeah, I think the fight will happen at some stage. I don't think Charlo's got a lot of options at the moment, apart from moving up to super middleweight and maybe fighting some of those guys. At middleweight, there doesn't seem to be a lot left. So we'll see what happens there. Munguia seems to be the logical choice for him, I think. Haney Lomachenko would be epic. Yep, it would be, mate. Interesting to see who you think would win. As I said, I think Lomachenko wins, but in a very tight fight. I think Haney's Lomachenko is almost an aggressive counterpuncher, if that makes sense. He likes to press the fight, but he counterpunches. Haney, he's that boxer as we've seen against George. So I don't think it'll be the most exciting fight. It'll be a real chess match, but I just think Loma's just a little bit more experience and polish than Haney and would get the win. Loma should do a warm up versus the winner of the second Kambosos and Haney fight. Yeah, look, I've got a feeling that's what might happen. I think George will get the next fight. I wouldn't mind, as I said earlier, that Loma did get the fight and George maybe fights the winner. However, George, it's in his contract. Take the fight. Hopefully win your titles back and then get the fight that he wanted all along, which is Lomachenko. So either way, I think we, as fans, we win either way, I think, and the boxers win either way. Hang on, we've got a Pommy and I've got to throw a Pommy in the mix. Would love to see Eubank Jr. fight someone not a complete bum. Now with Eubank Jr., I must admit I was almost going to throw him as a Charlo opponent, but I backed out because I just think Charlo absolutely kills Eubank Jr. I thought it'd be a good matchup on paper, but the more I thought about it, I thought, nah, Eubank Jr. doesn't have a chance against Charlo. Just my opinion. What do we got here? Got some more comments coming through. Charlo. Can't see that fight selling, Skinny. I'm assuming is that the Haney Lomachenko fight? I'm just going to see if I can see your comments here. Oh, yes, here we go. So that was a minute ago. So that is Lomachenko and Haney. Would it sell? I think it would. I think. Who knows? It'd be an interesting one. But as far as fans go, I think it'd be great. Actually, Skinny, I'll ask you a question while you're on there, mate. This is the Australian thing. Do you think a Haney Kambosos 2 fight sells in Australia? I don't think it does, especially in Melbourne. I think if they come back to fighting in Melbourne, I just don't think it sells. Being a Victorian myself, of course, one of those dirty Mexicans, I don't think that fight sells in Melbourne. I really don't. I think Melbourne love the sporting events. They'll get behind it. But to do it so soon afterwards, I don't think it sells. I think the only way it sells is if it goes to Sydney and maybe Queensland if they put some money up to have it up there. So it'd be interesting to see what you think, mate. Does it sell? Is that a bit more of a sell than what Haney and Lomachenko would be? So let me know, mate. Be very interested to hear your comments. I'll keep looking there. What do we got here, Pommy? Some more fights. I like this. Some more fights coming through. Be a great fight. Just get rid of Eubank after he gets destroyed. Well, that's probably one good thing of it, mate. We wouldn't have to put up with Eubank anymore. Legit the most overrated fighter probably of all time. He was called Chris Richards. You would not hear from. Exactly, mate. For me, he's not like a Tim Tszyu who's obviously had the advantage of having the name, but Tim's more than earned his way in the world. So I think he deserves his shot. Eubank, all he's done is talk it up. He was beaten by Billy Joe Saunders and who was it? who was it that fought Groves? Anyway, you know what I'm talking about in the World Series. George should wait for the winner. Thanks, Skinny. That's exactly what I said as well. I think George should sit out one, let Haney and Lomachenko fight, and then fight the winner. I don't think he's going to miss out. You'll obviously have a tune-up, which you'll obviously need, but just to keep warm. And I just think to fight Haney in a rematch after that, or even Lomachenko, it's a win-win, I think. He's going to get the next fight, so that's just my opinion. George versus Haney doesn't sell. Yeah. Thanks, mate. Yep. Thanks for backing me up on that. I don't think it sells either. Is that anywhere or just in general? Because I just think it's a tough sell. And I'm not sure, Skinny, whether you saw any episodes a week or two ago. I actually suggested maybe if George fights Haney again to even give up home ground advantage and do it in the States. Take the pressure off yourself. Go to Vegas or wherever it might be. Fight him over there or New York. And get that pressure off your back for what it was here in Australia. Get back to that mentality that he had when he fought Lopez and take that pressure away and do it in the States. As I said, I know he gives up home ground advantage, but I don't know. I think he makes up for that as far as having the pressure off him. So it'd be interesting to hear what you have to say there, mate. Sugar Ray Turner, Eubank versus Ben at a catch weight is a payday. There is talk about that, Ray. There is. I'm not sure that it will happen, but there has been apparently some talks that they're going to. Eddie Hearn says they're having a talk about it, so we'll see what happens there. Who wins that one? Eubank or Ben? I think Ben wins that one, even though he's a lot lighter. I think he could still probably beat Eubank. Skinny, fight Billy Dibb in between. That's not a bad one, mate, because Billy's. We went over the ratings last week on the show, and Billy's. I'm not sure I've actually got the ratings still here. I think he's rated in the top 15. I'm going to try and find it in a sec. No, I haven't got it, but I think he was rated in the top 15 on one of them, or might have been ranked by a couple of them. So, yeah, why not? I think give the Aussie fans what they want. I think that'd be an awesome fight. Would you guys like to see that one? I would love to see it. I'm just going back and forth here, guys. So apologies if I'm missing your comments. I'm going between two Facebook pages and YouTube at the moment. So what do you guys think? Billy Dibb versus George Kambosos. I think that's got some merit. That would sell. I think it's a great fight. I actually think Billy Dibb would give George all he could handle, even though Billy's obviously at the tail end of his career. I think that's a danger fight. So number 6 for the IBF. Thanks, Skinny. Yep. So I think, why not? I think it's a fight that would sell in Australia, and I for one would like to see it. I think Billy's got enough left to give George a fight, so why not? I think George would see it as a very winnable fight, while he's waiting for the shot. So give the fight fans what they want. What do we got here, mate? Eubank, like Jaime, shouldn't have fought for the weight already instead of chasing Cal Brook. Yeah, it's all about the money, mate. You can't look. It is a business, let's face it, but. Yeah, the decision some of these guys like Eubank have made, it just staggers me sometimes. Can't blame him. Short window for a box, but he goes about it like his dad. Well, I probably beg to differ a little bit there, mate. I actually take my hat off to Chris Eubank Sr. I used to love watching him fight. He fought some really good fighters and beat some really good fighters, of course. I think he was a little bit more. Of course, money's what it's all about. I think Chris Sr. was more about the legacy as well. I think Chris Eubank he loves to go off and get people talking, and he's almost like the Nick Kyrgios of boxing, I think, if you ask me. He's always going to be around about, but he's a bit of a pest, if you ask me, and he doesn't usually live up to expectations. You're getting a few fans here, Paul. I'm going to have to bar you from this page, mate. You're starting to get a bit more compliments than I have. You've got a habit of doing that. But, mate, great to have you along. Keep the comments coming. So he's on point. Yes, he is on point, as always. Ben knocks him out in the 4th. Is that – okay, hang on. I've got that wrong there. Hang on, wrong one. Ben knocks him out in the 4th. That hatred runs rampant, and Ben Jr. is still hungry. And the difference between both of them is that Ben can really fight. Look, I will say Eubank has got some skills, but the one thing that concerned me in his last fight when he fought with Roy Jones Jr. as his trainer is that I'm all for having those guys in your corner showing you different things, but he wasn't trying to take things that Roy might have shown him. He was actually trying to be Roy, and you can't be Roy Jones Jr. It's impossible. I mean, he's Roy Jones Jr. It's like trying to fight like Mayweather with the cross arm stuff. they're those legends for a reason. And as I said, it's a good thing to take things from them, but don't try and be them. It's a shortcut to getting knocked out. And if he tries to be Roy Jones Jr. against someone like these quality fighters, well, he's going to get his ass knocked out, if you ask me. What have we got here? Chris Eubank Sr. earned the right, but Junior is acting like he's won multiple titles. He's done nothing but ever superstar. Mate, 100%. Enough said. Enough said. And yes, Pommy, you are an expert. You are an expert whether you like it or not. Skinny, I'm a fan of Eubank, not high on Ben. Is that right, mate? Great to have your input here, because it could be over here trashing Eubank without any defence. So, mate, interesting to hear why you're not high on Ben, whether it's his technique or his personality, whatever it might be. But yeah, I must have been on the other way around. But anyway, Sugar Ray, Eubank has never beaten a Ben. Yes, good point. It could always be your first. Just like a Horn has never beaten a Zoo. Will that change next week? I strongly doubt it, but we will see. And yes, Andy, yep, curious of boxing. Yes, 100%. There you go. That's the way I see it. Some other fights there. The other lightweight fight, I'm not sure. Yes, I gave you my tip on Haney and Lomachenko. The other lightweight fight for me, Ryan Garcia, Gervonta Davis, Tank, we'll call him. I think that would be another ripper. Having said that, I think it'd be great in the build-up, the fan interest. Having said that, I think Davis knocks Garcia out. If you look at Garcia, he can punch, but every time he punches, and Skinny, if you're still here, you can back me up on this. When he hooks to the head or body, his chin goes up in the air and leaves himself wide open. And you can see that's why he got dropped by, who was it that dropped him? The Olympic gold medalist. Correct. Just put in the comments there. I can't remember. He got dropped because when he hooks to the head and body, and one thing you notice when you hook, and Skinny, you're one of the best hookers out there. You know, you can't be on your back foot with the chin up in the air when you're hooking. It's a recipe for disaster. You're going to get caught sooner or later. Davis, he's a tight, sharp, just nuggety little bloke who can punch. I think he has the tools to knock Davis out. Not just drop him, but knock him out. So I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on that. Campbell, thanks, mate. Luke Campbell, actually had the pleasure of meeting Luke about 5 years ago in America when the Twins were over there for a camp. Lovely guy. And I think he was just about to fight Lomachenko at the time. Obviously, he hasn't gone on with it like a lot of other Olympic gold medalists have, but still a talented fighter. Are we really talking about Garcia? Good point, Skinny. Yeah, well, he hasn't fought anybody yet, except for probably Campbell. Yes, he's all hype, but it would be an entertaining fight, both for the fans and obviously the spectacle of it. But I think, and I'd be interested in what you guys have to say about whether like Garcia's obviously left Eddie Renaso with Canelo, of course. Good decision, bad decision. I'm not a big fan of him slagging Canelo off. Now he's left the camp. I think have more respect with that. You don't slag someone like Canelo off. Canelo, not unless you've won a world title or even come close to what he's doing. So I'm not a fan of his, I will say. Garcia, not a fan at all. I hope he gets his head knocked off at some stage, I will say. And that's why I'll probably put the Davis fight in there, because Davis is the guy to do it. So Sugar Ray Turner, Ben Horn, respect, but give him credit for taking the fight with Zoo, but sadly it won't end well. Doubt this fight even gets to the point of using the ends well. Oh, mate, look, you're probably right. I actually hope you're wrong that he actually puts up a half-decent fight. Look, he's an honest guy. He's a really nice guy. He's honest, but I would probably think if I was Glenn Rushton, I'd be saying, Ben, hey, mate, love the fact you want to take the fight. This is not the fight for you. Glenn's seen first up, up close and personal what these guys can do. I just don't think it ends well for Ben. I'm going to go against you, though, Sugar Ray. I'm going to say that he gets to maybe the third round. And that might be a little bit just because Nikita has the instructions of maybe just taking it easy in the first couple and getting some rounds under the belt. So what do you guys think? Look, I'll be watching. There's a few good fights on the undercard, so that in itself would be good to watch. But look, end of the day, one thing I will say about this fight, he's copped a lot of flack for even taking the fight, has Nikita Zeus. Not his fault. He had 3 fights fall over for different reasons. Don't be hard on the kid or his team. They're trying to get these fights done. And Ben Horn actually came to them and said, I want the fight. So they took the fight. They did have another one booked, but it fell over. So you can't blame the kid's had 3 rounds of boxing in 8 years. So let's just let him mature. And again, as per someone's conversation earlier, comment earlier, if Nikita was Nikita Smith, no one would be taking any notice about these fights. They'd just be letting him go. So let's just give him a little bit of leeway and get some fights under his belt. A great fight. Garcia versus Davis should be huge with the fan bases. Yes, it would, but I just don't get why people listen to Ryan's comments. Dude acts like he's achieved more than Canelo. Mate, 100% agree. And as I said, I'm not a fan. I hope that chin that does a lot of this yapping off gets closed at sometimes by a big left hook or an overhand right or something. But the kid can fight, don't get me wrong. But he's got all the appeal in the world out there. I'm sure he's going to make millions and millions of dollars. But mate, let's maybe get a bit of cred under the belt before we start slagging off Canelo. And Canelo's got a lot of haters, but they shouldn't come from other fighters. Excuse me. So that's just my opinion. But I'm with you, mate. It'll be massive as far as the appeal goes, but as far as the fight itself, I'm thinking Davis gets the job there. Yeah, you're right, Skinny. I wasn't going to mention names, but you're right. Yeah, Bo Belbin and Terry Nicholas said no, and I think Benjamin Bomber did as well. They all had different reasons. I think Benjamin Bomber's trainer, Sam Labruna, had some health issues. Terry Nicholas has got some issues outside of boxing. Let's just say that. And Bo Belbin was offered the fight, got to the contract stage, and for whatever reason decided he didn't want to take the fight. So, I felt for Tazzy Brown, who obviously fought hard to get that fight done, but that's boxing. And in this case, Ben Horn stepped up. So good luck to him. Pommy in Oz. What do we got? Winner of them lightweight fights would be amazing. Then winner square off. Well, how good, before we go on, how good is the lightweight division in general? Kambosos, Haney, Lomachenko, Davis, Garcia, Shakur Stevenson might move up. There's some great fights to be had, and it's a really good time to be in the lightweight division. And the fact that they're all looking to fight each other, I think it's great. It takes you back to the days of Camacho and Chavez and Rosario and Livingston Bramble and Boom Boom Mancini and Pazienza and Haugen and all these guys who all sort of fought each other. I think it's who knows, might be a little bit of a throwback to that, but I think that's great. I'm just going to check the comments again here. Yeah, it was to fight Zoo Skinny. Yep. As I said, it's just a shame it didn't work out. Got to fight somebody. Exactly. He's got to fight somebody. And that's what he did. He just wants to fight. And as I said, he's had three rounds in 8 years. So, but geez, looking across the ring at him, it'd be pretty menacing, I would think. So let's hope. So let's hope a Belbin or a Nicholas or a Benjamin Bomber maybe get the fight next time. And Skiddy, I'm not sure whether you were watching earlier. I did have that. I'd love to see him fight Benny Mahoney or Victor Nagby or Colin Mazzutia or even Joel Camilleri or one of those guys at some stage. I think that would be a good fight for him as well when the time's right. What do we got here? Andy, Devin was with Matchroom on DAZN. Ryan was with Golden Boy on DAZN. Fight was doable on DAZN, but Ryan didn't want that Mando. Yeah, look, you shake your head sometimes, and they're all on there, and they'll make all the excuses out there. They'll do everything except fight each other. And I just get the impression sometimes that a fighter like Garcia, he's more of a social media fighter. And I know there's lots more of them out there. It's all about the likes. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw it. I remember, who was it that he had the argument at ringside with about who had more Instagram followers? I mean, come on, boys. What has this fight game got to when it's about who's got more Instagram followers? I don't get it. That's why I love the Camboses and Haneys and, well, might have been Haney, but the Camboses and Lomachenkos and these types of guys, they just get in there and fight. They don't care. Yes, they have big social media presences, but it's not about that. So Ryan Garcia is probably one of those fighters, if you ask me, if you can understand this. And if you ever watch the movie White Men Can't Jump, it's in that. He says, in this instance, he would rather lose and look good rather than win and look bad. That's the type of fighter Garcia is, if that makes sense. As I said, he'd rather lose the fight but look good rather than win the fight and look bad. So that's my opinion of Ryan Garcia. So Ryan, prove us wrong. What do we got here? Pommy again. Some superstars. Best division for me, mate. It's an awesome division. Always jump at a chance to watch a lightweights. Know the boxing moves live. It is all about heavies at the moment with some class fighters. Davis is my fave to watch. Yeah, look, I think, especially if Tyson Fury is serious, I don't think he is about stepping away. The heavyweight division for me is about to go back into a bit of a lull. Now, if Usyk and Joshua, they're obviously the next big fight. If, say, Joshua could well retire if he loses to Usyk again, who knows? I mean, he could. But even if he doesn't, he's severely tarnished. So it leaves us Usyk. And Usyk, as much as a great fighter is not the most exciting or marketable type of guy. Almost take us back to the Klitschko sort of era where they were dominant, but not overly appealing and weren't really appealing to the American masses and that sort of stuff. So I think Usyk falls into that category. But at least with the Klitschkos, at least there was always the big knockouts they could put in there. Usyk's not that type of fighter. So if he beats Joshua, and Joshua sort of either retires or goes back a little bit, really the only big fight for him then is either Fury or Wilder. Now, if Fury doesn't come back, it leaves one big fight, and that's Deontay Wilder. And how marketable is Wilder now? So that's why it's good to have these other divisions below them really starting to fire up. And of course, we've got the welterweights as well, and the middleweight, middleweight divisions as well. So yeah, it's an interesting time. But at the moment, the lightweight is exactly where we're at. And mate, don't yell at me with those capital letters. Who the heck cares about Instagram followers? I know you're only making a point there, mate. 100%, mate. And I'm from a bygone era when social media didn't even exist. And I didn't even turn pro. It was always about fighting the best and trying to obviously beat the best. So each their own, I would say. Keep going there. Pommy again. Garcia is a problem with 2020's fighters. In my day, they were real fighters. Ingle, Tyson, Barrera, yep, made money by fighting for honor and taking chances. Legacy fighters, now it's dollars over pride. Now, good point you make about Tyson there, mate. I want to use him as an example. Now, Tyson gets kicked around a lot, and it's easy after his career's over, and I know his career didn't end well, and there was talk about his ticker in big fights, all that sort of stuff. But one thing I will say, if you're a real fight fan, you remember Tyson from the late 80s, early 90s. He was like an absolute steamroller going through the division. He went from fighting Trevor Berbick for the WBC title. You then beat Bone Crusher Smith for the WBA title. You then beat Pinklon Thomas in a title defense. Pinklon Thomas, if you can remember, was being hyped up as the next Larry Holmes after he beat Witherspoon. Knocked him out, I think, in 6 rounds. Then he beat Tony Tucker for the IBF belt. Then he beat Olympic gold medalist Tyrell Biggs. This is all in the space of 1 year, by the way. Then in 87, he beat Tony Tubbs in February, former WBA champion. Then he beat former world champion Larry Holmes. Then he beat Spinks for the undisputed title. So, again, that's all in the space of 18 months. And after that was Bruno. He fought Carl Williams. He just kept bowling over course. Then he ran into Douglas and was never the same. Now, he did all that at the age of about 23. I mean, that is an unbelievable achievement, 23, 24. And I'm just shattered with Tyson that we didn't see the best of him. And I hate that he's remembered for those fights later in his career. But to your point there, mate, it was all about legacy for Tyson. And you're right with Barrera and Morales and Pacquiao and all those great fighters. Gaddy, even though Gaddy wasn't, one of the elite fighters, he just fought everybody. It just, I don't know. I hate to be one of those people that says back in my day. And that's how old I am now. Back in my day, they all fought each other. And I'm glad it's back in your day too, Pommy, because that's when fighters were fighters. Tyson Fury, like Floyd and Conor, always talking to stay in the light. I won't be surprised if he returns for AJ, but Usyk is the man if he wins second fight again. Now, I must admit, one of my talking points for this week's Boxing Deep Dive show was, does Tyson Fury just love to keep his name out there? Because it seems that way, doesn't it? To come out with a little "I'll fight him for free" comment, that shows to me as someone that's struggling a little bit with not being in the public eye for a few months or weeks, whatever it might be. So he wants to get himself back out there. So Sugar Ray, Tyson reignited boxing internationally. Damn, we got his fights on TV in Australia when nobody was buying TV rights. Exactly, mate. I'm glad you can back me up there because, as I said, like Mike Tyson back in the day, and look, I was when he was, just going through the division, I was like 15 or 16 or 17, whatever it might be. He was just an absolute beast. And they say the baddest man on the planet. And I just miss the days when And you guys can, remember, if you're a little bit young to remember Tyson at his peak, and when I say peak, as I said, 23, 24, 25, whatever it might be. So hadn't even hit his peak as far as heavyweights goes. He was the hottest ticket in world sport, not just boxing, world sport. Now, when he would fight, he was on TV, every country in the free world to have him on. He was the biggest celebrity this world's ever seen. You've ever seen. You think Tyson Fury and Canelo and all these are popular and well known. Tyson was just the man. He was just loved and respected by everyone, and he earned that by just bowling everyone over. You see, their animal was Tyson, pure hate and a love for violence, no doubt about that, mate. Was a proper bad man. Used to scare me as a kid watching as a kid. Mike, if you didn't have them last 5 years, would be regarded as the GOAT. Yep. And as I said, mate, I get a little bit pissed when we see, and look, I've had this argument with Tassie a few times where Tassie says he lacks ticker, and I know, the Lewis fight and the Holyfield fight, you could probably say there was he probably, I don't know, whether he come across as the bravest guy or he dogged it or whatever you want to call it. I don't see it that way. I just see it as a shot fighter who wasn't there physically or mentally. Forget the Lennox Lewis fight. He was shot by then. I mean, he was, 36 or whatever it was when he fought. He was on the downward slope. In my opinion, I think a prime Tyson beats a prime Lewis. I think he beats a prime Bo. I think he beats a prime Tyson Fury. All these guys, I think he beats Usyk. I think he beats Joshua. I think he beats all those guys of his era and the era after that. A little bit different going back to obviously Ali, Foreman, Fraser would have been a ripper fight. I just think Tyson gets a bit of a bad call on some of these things where, misunderstood as far as where he falls in the scheme of things, because back then he didn't shirk an issue. He fought every single person of his era and pretty much knocked them all out. So I think that's all he can do. But anyway, more on Iron Mike. It's become the Iron Mike show. He was heavyweight undisputed in the 3-belt era. First favorite. An intro to heavyweight. Yeah, he was, mate. And look, at what was he, 20, 21 years of age, unified the world heavyweight title. And yeah, you can say maybe the fighters weren't really up to speed. You've got to remember, Trevor Berbick, he was the perfect guy to get that first world title against WBC champion, perfect opponent for Tyson. Tyson was always going to bowl him over, just perfect for him to get that belt. The WBC belt then was the most prestigious. He got the belt around him, and then it was away from there. The WBA belt, he was scheduled to fight Tim Witherspoon. Of course, Bone Crusher Smith upset that apple cart with a first-round knockout over Tim, so he fought him. And Bone Crusher, with a big bad reputation, well, you have to have a reputation like that with a nickname like Bone Crusher, but Bone Crusher ran for 12 rounds against Tyson, didn't even want to take Tyson on, so forget that one. Pinklon Thomas, as I said, he was the Larry Holmes heir apparent, and he knocked him out as well. And Tony Tucker, very, very underrated heavyweight, could have been a lot better than what he was, beat him, and then the Olympic gold medalist in Tyrell Biggs, as I said. So, and Larry Holmes, he was washed up at the time, come back and fought for the world heavyweight title twice. So, I think you got to give Tyson a bit more credit than he gets. I'll go through some comments here because I've been coming while I've been venting there. Love Fury. Yeah, we all love Tyson Fury, of course. Feel for Usyk as a boxer. He's the best by a mile. Prefer to watch him over the others, but surely him versus Tyson is the easiest fight ever for Fury. Yeah, look, I don't think it'll be an easy one, Pommy. I think Usyk's shown that I think he troubles anyone. I just think he would not see Tyson Fury. He's not going to stand in front of him like a robot like Joshua did. He's not going to follow him around the ring like Joshua did. He's not going to, be lazy like Joshua did. He didn't really do a lot. He almost expected just to get the win. Fury's going to mix it up. He's going to really put the pressure on him. He'll pressure him. He'll box him. He's obviously got the massive size. I'm with you. I think Fury wins, but I think that would actually be a pretty tough fight either way. But Fury obviously gets that. Even when he says he doesn't, some guys just need the adulation. I'm assuming you're talking about Tyson Fury. Hey, mate, if anyone deserves adulation, it's Tyson Fury. We love him. He's great for the sport, and hopefully he comes back. And I must admit, for one, I'm hoping Joshua beats Usyk in the rematch so we can see Joshua and Fury. I think it will be an awesome fight. Pommy, my pop banned me from living room when he fought Lennox and Bruno, so I wanted Tyson to win. Yeah, well, I mean, geez, poor old Frank Bruno. Geez, I must admit, I actually felt sorry for him in the Tyson fight, and full credit to him for actually fighting in the second time. Because I think if you look at that first fight that Tyson fought with Bruno, Tyson wasn't even in shape. You look at the fight, because Tyson had beaten Spinks in June of 1988. He didn't fight again until February 1989 against Bruno. So that's an eight-month break. And that was the longest break Tyson had ever had. Go back and watch the Tyson, the shape he was in when he fought Spinks to when he fought Bruno. He was not in shape, and he still bombed Bruno out of there with not much effort in 5 rounds. And then the next fight obviously bombed him out of there in 3 rounds when he was in a lot better condition. So probably mentally and physically. The Lennox fight, as I said, look, no doubt Lennox would have been a tough fight in any era they fought. I just think Tyson, his head movement, his work rate would have just been a bit too much for Lennox, and he would have won a decision over him. But yeah, shame on you, mate, going against your countryman when he fought Tyson. Andy, again, mate, I became a huge Lennox fan before the fight, but to be honest, deep down, I wanted to see I might rise again to what he was. Or was kind of sad, mate. I didn't think Tyson had a chance in hell, to be honest. I saw him a little bit of training in the lead up to it. Some of the interviews he had, he wasn't there, not mentally or physically. He wasn't fit, and you could just see he was a wreck mentally. He had a lot going on in his life at that stage. I think he took the fight purely for the money. So I just don't. I would have loved to have seen it 10 years earlier, but I think when they fought, and look, that's not the only fight. You can probably look at it and go, well, maybe even a Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather situation. Do you rank Mayweather's win because of the time they fought? I think Mayweather beats Manny every single day of the week they fight. Sorry, they fight 10 times. I think Mayweather beats him 10 times. It's just styles. That's all it is. So, but maybe that was the case for that as well. Okay. What do you got there, Tara? I have an Olympic fan letter to prove you're around before social media. Yes, I did get some fan letters when I went to the Olympics. The kiddo asking if you were one of the fighters in the picture he printed. Yeah. All right, quick funny story about that. When I went to the Olympics, each day they give you an envelope full of fan letters from all the kids. See what happened back then. I'm assuming it happens now. They go to all the high school and primary schools, and they say, write an Olympian a letter. So they all just obviously pick one and they write them a letter. Well, so I got a bag full each day like all the other ones did. And I had a young kid send me a picture, and it was a picture of Mike Tyson. And he asked if I was one of the people in the picture, whether it was Mike Tyson. So, look, it was funny at the time, but he obviously was just told to write a letter, and he picked me and thought I was Mike Tyson. But anyway, that was a long time ago. I still got some of those letters, and I've actually got some letters from current day boxers, if you can believe that. So there you go. That was 26 years ago. That was. Guys, we're going to finish up pretty soon, unless you guys have got anything else you want to talk about. I think we've gone through them all. I had a special mention for the world fights I would like to see. Jesse Rodriguez and Chocolatito Gonzalez. I would love to see that fight. I think that would be an awesome fight. I know Rodriguez has just beaten Ty for the WBC title, so I would like to see that. So maybe there is talk that might actually happen, so we might see that at the end of the year. Sugar Ray with a couple of more comments there. Sugar Ray, what do we got? Don't give me unified title rubbish with Mike Tyson. He didn't beat Francisco Damiani, the WBO title holder, even though the WBO was a WB who back then. Was the WBO around back then? When did they come into it? I thought they were they were 1988, because Hearns and Kinchin fought for the first title. That was at super middleweight. I forgot about that. So Francisco Damiani, that's a good point, mate. I thought that was before the WBO come in, but you're 100% right. That was. So shame on you, Mike Tyson. You should have fought Damiani, and you've just lost all the respect I was talking about. Sugar Ray again, doesn't help when you break your hand on Mitch Green's head in the street fight and have to cancel the original date for the Bruno fight. Yeah, well, is that what caused it? Was it? I wasn't actually aware of that. So there you go. So he broke his hand on Mitch Green's head in the street. Didn't stop Mitch Green from running his mouth off, though. But so that was the reason why the first fight was postponed, because 8 months was a long time for Tyson then. As I said, in 1987 alone, well, we go back, I think he fought November 86. You then fought in, I think it was March 87, May 87, August 87, and then October 87. So that's 5 fights in the space of under a year. for a heavyweight champion, that is just unbelievable. And then he fought Tubbs in February of 88, and then Holmes, I think, in March or April of 88, and then Spinks in June of 88. That is some serious fights there. That's like, what's that, 7 or 8 fights in 18 months. That's a lot of fights. So don't be rubbishing Mike Tyson while I'm around. Anyway, WBO wasn't accepted as a major belt in 2004. Thanks, mate. Thanks for letting us know. The WBO, look, and I must admit, who would have thought back then? I remember when Thomas Hearns fought James Kinchin in that super middleweight fight. If you can remember, that was the first WBO title fight ever. That was regarded as, I won't mention the organisations. You guys know the ones I'm talking about. Let's just say it wasn't exactly a WBC or WBA, and I never thought it would be. So credit to the WBO that is now held on the same pedestal as a WBC, WBA, and IBF. And the IBF, even for that matter, 3 years earlier in 1985, when it first came out. Of course, our man Lester Ellis won it. Jeff Fennick won it. Larry Holmes was the first one they gave it to at heavyweight that really gave it a little bit of respect. And then after that, obviously it got more and more, because back before that was just the WBA and WBC. So, it would be great to go back to one title, yes, but I'm sorry, it ain't gonna happen. That's why Lennox was deemed last undisputed heavyweight champ of 3-belt era. Okay, thanks, mate. Thanks for clarifying that. But yeah, will we ever see another 4-belt champion? I suppose we're a chance if the WBC can get their act together, and maybe now the belts. Would that be something that's maybe to consider if Tyson Fury gives up the belt? Maybe the number one challenger fights the winner of Usyk and Joshua, and we've got an undisputed world champion. That would probably make sense. Probably makes too much sense from to even consider it, because common sense is not so common anymore, as they say. So, all right, guys, I think that's almost about it. We haven't really got time for the BoxRec schedule. We've been going quite some time here at the moment. But again, look out for Friday morning, the deep dive show. We'll have Tassie and Pete Maniatis back, which means the quiz will be back and all the other stuff to talk about. We might even go over some of these things as well on that episode as well. So tune in. We've got this week's dream fight is Miguel Cotto and Aaron Pryor. So check that one out. And the classic fight, I think last week, was the Pacquiao Marquez fight. So check them out as well. One last one from Pommy before we go. Probably won't see a 4-belt champion heavyweight. It takes ages to arrange these fights, and the government bodies go out of the way to avoid helping each other out. Yes, they do, mate. But as I said, is that the solution? The number one challenger for the WBC fights the winner of Usyk, Joshua. Perfect solution right there and then. So we'll see. But as always, guys, really enjoy having you guys along. As we keep saying, like, share, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. I'm hoping to be able to take the show live soon so we can actually get people on to comment on the show with me. Probably you know all about that, mate, with having live guests. It's just a little bit hard where I live at the moment. My internet's shit. I have got the Starlink in now. So Elon Musk has got a lot to answer for. I'm just hoping that we've got the tech coming out in another week or so. Hopefully he can fix it and we can get you guys on to actually chat on here live with me as well. And as I said, all the deep dive show live as well. So thanks again, guys. Really appreciate you tuning in as always. Keep the comments and questions coming, and any topics you might want to talk about. As I said, this week's with the 5 fights I'd like to see, both in Australia and internationally. Any other thing you would like to talk about, as it says there, let's talk boxing. So until next week, thanks again, and we'll